It's all fine to say that a Bronze Age pervert is a mean guy on the internet who promotes unbridled lust. But it's not me who made family life impossible in modern conditions. And of course, with the usury of the central bank-run modern economies, with this there go also certain sexual mores as well that have led to modern infertility and that again do not come from me. They do not come from Nietzsche. They do not come from nihilism. They come from the banks and the central banks you support, conservatives. Great books for men from Hartiste Roissy went into details on this and how women have been butt-hexed by Bernanke, how they've been turned into addictive anal sex goons and faggot cocksuckers because by debauching your daughters, you see, and having them delay marriage to their 30s, they have a long life in their 20s now as faithful cogs to a labor and consumption machine. They're no longer subject or partner to a husband. Instead, they're whores to their bosses and employers. They generate labor, they lower wages, they lower job security and the bargaining power of employees. They introduce a weird sexual tension and anarchy in the workplace. They destroy male camaraderie. They destroy labor unions, therefore, and most important, they delay the formation of families that would remove them from this consumer system and would place them instead into the role of family mother. And that's what Bernanke and company don't want to happen. It's not me that did this. Then there is also the other aspect of this that you're all familiar with, that a woman who has been ass-fucked by alphas throughout her 20s isn't going to make an especially good mother and wife. She will have only the most mercenary loyalty to her husband and will often divorce him. F. Roger Devlin points this: 70% of divorces initiated by women, and of course the real figure is more like 90%, if you include the women who make life hell for their husbands and force them into filing for divorce. Once she does this, of course, the family courts, which are another arm of the extractive pseudo-capitalist state, the family courts move in and have a claim on half the men's wages, indefinitely, with the threat of jail if he loses a job. So this is outright slavery of the most brutal kind that many American men have been reduced to. And often they are under gag orders from gangster judges of family courts, and they receive no sympathy because the average stolid American burgher considers such a man to be a deadbeat if he complains about his subjection. There are cases even where a wife can cheat on her husband, she can get impregnated by another man, she can get her husband to, let's say, sign the birth certificate and foolishly to be the father for a year, and then after she can leave him and she can live with her boyfriend, the biological father. So now the poor fuck has no legal recourse. Even if a paternity test should show this fraud, he is legally bound to pay child support, and actually under threat of jail, he needs to have a job to support a biologically intact family that is not his own. Such things have happened. And even when it doesn't get that extreme, there are many, many other cases that approach that level of injustice. But of course, many single men too are reduced essentially to similar slavery and cuckoldry today, because let's say if you make 40 or 50,000 a year in a modern city in America, you barely have enough to pay rent and food. That's it. After the life, that's the life of a slave. Okay, the taxes you face are enormous, and they go to support Shibun single mothers and the medical care for the families of mud spirit worshipping Oaxacans that Dowsat and Vermulo want to import for their noble integralist Catholic monarchy. That will never happen. And if you live in New York, you can make $80,000 or $90,000 starting, and you have to live with roommates, and you have no money left over after rent and food. And this is the life of the so-called elite now, who work in banks. Sometimes they work 60 hours a week. Actually, that's average. Sometimes it's 80 hours a week. And something like 10% of their pay or more goes to the upkeep of Harlem. Oh, how branch the life of a slave. No money left over after food and rent. So this, in any case, is family life, or the lack of it now, and then after you are secure in your 30s, when your children, let's say, will be born, and you can finally have family in your 30s, but they will be born weaker. And the germline mutations, they enter the bloodline. When you can have only 1 or 2 kids, let's say with woman in late 30s, with a very special woman who's seen in her 20s as much action as a courtesan would have in previous ages, or actually more so, and gotten less for it, even less pleasure for it. You can marry a special, overeducated lady who decides to tell you one day that you have to accept a polyamory and she will break up your marriage with kids and everything. And this is the special future that social conservatives stomp their feet about. Why aren't you embracing that special lady and becoming a family man? It must be because this weird Russian asset posts photos of muscular men on the internet and encourages you to read Ernst Jünger and Mishima. That must be why.